Coming to you live from the crib again, it's Keith with another video tutorial. It's been a while since I made a couple of video tutorials, so I figured I'll go ahead and make a quick video tutorial on the LG Y sustain boards. This is relatively a very popular Y sustain board for a lot of the plasma televisions from about 2005 to about 2008 in the LG chassis. This is the infamous 6871QYH053 Y sustain. I get a lot of questions and people asking how do I make my boards look professional after I replace the IPM without using a whole lot of heat or using a heat gun, or with signs of using the heat gun or a whole lot of heat. And the answer is simple. I take a hammer to it. To replace the IPM, first thing you want to do is make sure your board is bad, because we're going to destroy this IPM getting it off the board. And if the IPM's not bad, you don't want to waste, $10 for an IPM. Well, my cost on is $10. Your cost, probably if you buy it through eBay or one of these guys, is going to probably be right around about $30 or $40. But my cost is $10 because I ordered them directly from overseas. But first thing you want to do is make sure your IPM's bad. The most common way to tell is if the F2 fuse or FS2 fuse blows open. That's normally a telltale sign that the IPM's bad. It's the one closest to the capacitors here. The other way is to measure or check for short across the VS and the sus out. If there's a short across these two pins here, let's see if I can show you. It's kind of hard to see with my iPad, but these two pins here, basically the sus out and the VS, if you get a short across those two, your IPM's more than likely bad. To remove the IPM, the way I do it is I literally use a flat tip screwdriver, booyah, and a hammer, booyah. And what we're going to do is, what I do is I take and use a flat tip screwdriver between the edge here, and I knock it down and break all the pins. So one thing you want to make sure you're doing is there's a bunch of little bridges here. You want to make sure you don't hit those with your screwdriver, which I normally don't, but I normally just break the pins off. Normally one good whack with the hammer does the trick. And you go down to all the pins and you just break them all off. You don't have to hit too hard, just enough to break the pins. The pins will break relatively easy. Once you break the pins, as you can see, this side of the IPM is loose. And what I do at this time is I take and I rotate the IPM one way and then the other, and it breaks off. And there you go, your IPM's loose. Now at this point in time, what you can do is you can check to make sure that your IPM's actually bad. You can go in here and look to see that it's blown up, or you can measure against here again. And as you can see, we no longer have a short. So now at this time, what we're going to do is we're going to add some solder to all these pins. I just go through and add some solder to all these pins. Go through, add some solder to all these pins. And that's pretty much it for that part of it. Then I'll come through with some fingernail clippers, and I'll heat up that one prong or that pin that sticks through, and pull it through with the fingernail clippers. Oh, I probably have some plastic on the side still protruding. Yeah, let's go ahead and cut that off real quick. Oh, I don't think I brought those. There they are. When you're using your wire cutters, you want to make sure you don't cut none of the surface mount capacitors or resistors off. I've done that before on the Z sustain board. I haven't done it on the Y sustain, but the Z sustain has a a couple of surface mount capacitors real close to the IPM pins, and they're real close to the IPM pins, and you can actually cut one of them off and not know it. But basically, we'll go through here, pull these legs out. Pull these legs. Trying to hurry up. Sorry, my iPad's at 10%, so I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get able to finish the whole video. But most of you guys can pretty much will know what to do from here. I'll add some more solder to this side here, or add some solder to this side. I don't think I added any to it yet. You want to make sure that the pins actually become loose in there. You're not pulling too hard on it, because you don't want to pull a through trace. One of the through hole traces. It's the whole purpose of this, is so you don't destroy the board. Okay. Set some board to this pad real quick. Then you take your solder sucker, you heat up the area. All we're basically doing is removing all the solder out of all the holes here. That one didn't clean up too good. There we go. We're going to add a little bit more solder to this one, because those holes aren't coming clean. When the holes don't come clean, I normally just add a little bit more solder to it, and then I come back and suck it up, and it normally comes pretty clean like that there. Those ones didn't come clean. Alright, and if you want, you can of course take some wick to it and get all of it up, but you don't need to get all the solder out of there, because or all the solder that's on the side out of there, because you're going to be adding more solder to it. Let's see if I can put this here to hold it while I still this. Yep. And then what I do is I put a little flux remover on a rag, and I basically just wipe the board down where all the solder pin holes are. Sometimes you need a little bit more. Normally one wipe will do it, but if you want it to look really, really good. And then, of course, on the other side, I'm going to show you the other side so that way you see that I didn't damage the board. Oh, there's one hole I didn't get the whole way. Which hole was it? This hole? And then you can wipe it. And then as you can see, sorry for the bad lighting, but as you can see, the board doesn't have any warpage or heating or anything like that. And all the holes, you can see through them. They're really clean. On this side here as well. I don't know if you can tell. Let's see if I can move the iPad real quick. But, I don't know if you can see, but there's no damage to the board anywhere. Only any one of the sides. And this is what the board looks like on the back side. Looks pretty good.